Hi everyone and welcome back to your weekly installment of the Reserve List Top 10. These are the hottest selling cards on the reserve list and the numbers are insane. Are we working our way back up to buyouts on the reserve list? Are we seeing sales we haven't seen in years? Yeah, stay tuned everyone. This is going to be a wild ride that you are not going to want to miss. Welcome back. I am your host, MTG Moxman, and we're here to talk about the reserve list. That's right, for the next 12 to 15 minutes, it is all reserve list, and I hope you're ready. We are going to have a good time. Now, don't forget, if you are buying any reserve list cards and you're shopping on TCG Player, don't forget to use my TCG Player affiliate link. It is found in the description of the video, and it helps the channel get more prizes for everybody, because that way they're kind of free. Let's go into number 10. Now, number 10 this week is Treachery from Urza's Destiny. This card is $40 now. It hasn't really been going up at all. It's been on a downward trend for quite a while, but 51 sales this week brings us to $2,000 of total sales action. That's quite a lot. Now, we can also look back and see that this card at one point was well over the $150 mark. And that isn't something we should be ignoring either, because it gives us an idea of where this card has been in the past. And the slow downward trend you see on your screen right now shows that the card didn't instantly fall. It fell very gradually. Now, what do we get for Treachery? It's a 5 casting cost. It's an enchant creature that says when it comes into play, you get to untap 5 lands and you control the enchanted creature. Now, there's lots of ways of sacking this and bringing the enchantment back to your hand. So there's a lot you can do with Treachery and you get your mana back. Very cool. Now, the number 9 card this week is Helm of Obedience from Alliances. This is another card from Alliances that a lot of players have started paying attention to. 58 sales this week, $2,000 in total sales action, and there's a lot going on with cards like this because of that generic artifact ability and the way you like to mill people and take their stuff away. Well, Helm of Obedience likes to do that too. It's only $35.10 for a near mint copy, and you can do a lot with that kind of cash flow. It's not an expensive card. You can trade for this thing so easily. Now, when we take a look at where this card has been, it's been at the $150 mark, just like Treachery was. When you see this card now, though, it's had a lot more of a rocky road going up and down and all over the place, but it's still played in Commander, it's still played in Vintage Legacy decks, so there's a lot of people still desiring the card. They just kind of forget about it, and I guess people are starting to remember. Let's look at the iconic artwork and understand that it's X and put the top card of target opponent's library into their graveyard, doing so until they have X cards gone or a creature card comes up, whatever comes first. Very cool. And that creature card, by the way, goes to your control. Now, our next card is the Academy Rector, coming into the number 8 position with 62 sales this week, or $3,500 in sales action. With an average price of $57.01, this card is still pretty inexpensive for what it does. And now, with what we've seen with Commander decks in the last little while, and I mean in the last week or so, cards like this seem to have had an uptick in correlation to cards we've seen selling from Aether Drift. So Aether Drift spoilers and pre-orders seem to be connecting with what we're going on with some of the cards in today's list. Now, when we take a look at the price range of this card, it's been above the $150 mark. It's 2/3 off right now, not even at $60. It's a forecasting cost, which seems insanely high for this kindly old grandma. But you know what? When you look at what it does, this cleric does a lot. When the Academy Rector is put into a graveyard from play, you can remove the Academy Rector from the game, search your library for an enchantment card, and put it directly into play. That's insane depending on the casting cost and what you need to do. Pay attention to it. Our next card, Braingeyser, Revised Edition, $14.90. This thing is so cheap, it's insane. But it had 65 sales this week. Still under $1,000 though of sales action. This card is so cheap, it can't even crack the $1,000 mark when it sells 65 copies. Now, understanding that Braingeyser is reserve list, but Revised has such a large print run, it is more important to buy a near mint copy of this card than to spend extra cash and get like a heavily played. Unless it's just something you're looking at playing with, you might as well go for the near mint. Yeah, you can get them for $8, $9 if they're heavily played to moderately played, but at the same time, near mint for a few bucks more means it just has higher resale value later on. The card's been around the $90 mark, and here we have it now at like basically what? So cheap, I can't even describe the math on that because it would hurt my head. Iconic artwork, and of course the ability to make a target player draw X cards, which of course with all kinds of cards like Underworld Dreams or some of the insanity we've seen this year with Valvalgoth and stuff, we've got a lot going on. This card had a lot of sales earlier and it still does now. Now, for our next card, we're diving into Fork again, revised edition. It's $35.54 on average, 68 sales this week, which is $2,400 of sales action. Now, the 68 sales I found very interesting. This one here has continual sales every week. Sometimes it makes the top 10, sometimes it doesn't. But Fork is one of those cards that is played everywhere and will continue to do so. It is reserve list. There are cards that kind of imitate the ability, but you want to have as much firepower as you can and duplicating this card as many times as you can. This one's been at like $170. 35 bucks for a heavily played near mint. Get it? Heavily played near mint means you could just go get a heavily played one for like 20 bucks or get the near mint for 35. Every single version of this thing is selling under the sun. Amy Weber's artwork, we're up there, man. Great card. I can see why players are buying this one. Now, we're going to get to some insanity now. Here is Shallow Grave from Mirage. Average price, $50. This thing is at its peak level again. 72 sales, $3,665 of total sales action. Shallow Grave, this whole zombie thing we've had going this week because of Aether Drift, has got the sales kind of going off the hook. Some sales numbers we haven't seen in years, since 2021. Now, what am I talking about? Well, when we take a closer look at cards like Shallow Grave, when you see the bridging of the price, it's kind of like a stepping stool, kind of going up, going up, going up as it goes. And it's approaching that level again. It's on the reserve list. It's not coming around again. And as players buy these cards, they hold on to it. One black, one other. Shallow Grave, look at the guy climbing out. Put the top creature card from your graveyard into play as though it were just played. That creature is unaffected by summoning sickness. Remove the creature from the game at end of turn. It's still insane. Now, our next card is from Urza's Saga, and this is Great Whale. It's $17.23 a copy. It sold 89 copies this week, which is still only $1,533 of total sales action. Now, just like Treachery, when you're looking at cards from the Urza block, a lot of these cards do this weird kind of game effect where they untap your lands. And the Great Whale is no exception. It does the exact same thing. When we look at the history and the price of this card, you can see it's been at around the $50 mark. And then it slowly trended down. Like Treachery, it didn't just drop off the face of the earth and go like totally splashing down. It had a weird meandering road. So now that you see the card, let's see what we're getting into. When the Great Whale comes into play, you untap 7 lands. It's a 5/5 that's basically free because you're going to cast it, untap your lands, but you get the 5/5. There are ways of creating infinite mana loops with cards like this, so it's a big one. Now, our next card, Copy Artifact. This thing has gone under the radar, and a lot of people are starting to notice. $52.60. Yeah, it's seen an increase of like $4 and change. But the 249 sales means it's $13,097. Last week, we had the unlimited copies selling 52 to 55 copies. I forget, you can look at last week's video. But this week, 249 is just a nutty buddy, okay? Now, this card has been as high as $170. It is seeing an actual month-over-month increase. Even though there's tons of copies out there and revised, the players buying these cards are buying every version from heavily played to near mint. Being able to copy an artifact in play is a very big deal. Doing it in a mana cost efficient way is even bigger. The fact this card is under $200 means enjoy it, everyone, because it's not going to stay there forever. Now, our next card. We're diving over to Visions, and we're taking a look at Sands of Time. Guys, this thing sold 520 copies. That's $3,052 of sales action. 520 copies in a single week for this card. We haven't seen numbers like this since 2021. So what is going on? This card offers a kind of unique ability. But first, before we get to the write-up of the card, it's only ever been at 12 to 13 bucks. This card right now has jumped to $5.87 on average. It is halfway to already getting back to where it used to be. And you wait for the price spike on Monday. That's when MTG stocks will level it up. Now, each player skips his or her untap phase, and you can only untap one, okay? So you get artifacts, creatures, or lands. That's it. Everything else stays tapped. It's crazy to think what people will do with this. People are being nutty buddy. All right, let's go over and take a look at the number 1 card, Unfulfilled Desires from Mirage. $29.49 on average. 1,021 copies sold. That is $30,000 in this particular rare. Guys, this has now brought the card up to where it used to be. This card has been this high before, and it's had this kind of up and down over the years. And if you look and see where this card is played out, it never holds its price. It still won't hold its price. But there's a lot of players desiring this card because of Aether Drift, and it's got a lot of sales. These are those micro mini things, but because of how many cards went up this week, it's really spreading out into a whole bunch of buyouts across the spectrum of the reserve list. And this is the head. This is the head of the Hydra, making everything work out. Now, paying 1 life and drawing a card and then choosing and discarding, not that big of a deal. It's already kind of a good card. And the way that players are using it in Commander makes it just vicious. Now, if you're taking a look at week over week and year over year, then the sales you saw this week are truly an avalanche of sales. They are massive. They are not like anything we've seen in the last couple of years. These numbers do not happen on the top 10 for the reserve list. But every once in a while, new cards come along. Aether Drift has just proven the point that if Wizards create certain cards with certain concepts and ideas, it allows a trigger, just a detonation on some card on the reserve list. Maybe that card's been popular before, maybe not, but the sales now happen. The FOMO event takes over, and before you know it, thousands of copies disappear from all kinds of reserve list cards. Now, it's not just Unfulfilled Desires. That card has been sought out numerous times, but its price is already trending down like we've seen in the past. There's a lot of copies out there. But when you start seeing other cards that didn't even make the top 10, I have a list here of cards that didn't make the list, okay? They're not here. Those cards are things like the dual lands. Some of them sold 40 copies this week. It just wasn't enough to crack the top 10. Replenish. Look at Academy Rector popping on, allowing you to get the exact enchantment you're looking for, which could cost an arm and a leg. That thing's $45. When you go and look at cards like Copy Artifact that should be an expensive card because of what it can do for you and the fact the card's under $100 right now, anyone should already recognize that's a deal and a half. When the card isn't being paid attention to and it's down to like $25, buy some copies. Save yourself the trouble later on. This is the market we're in, where players wonder if there's now going to be a continual landslide of reserve list sales. And I still believe we are in a transactional state where individual cards get sought out because of new cards coming around, but that is not spurring on a massive momentum across the entire reserve list where people say, oh my God, these are reserve list cards. We've got to have them. I just want to collect as many of any type I can. I don't care if they're good or not. I just want them. That's what we had in 2021. We don't have that now. We have individual cards kind of being sought out and added to deck collections and being utilized in either 1, 2, 4, even 8 different decks, but not everyone needs to have 10 copies of each of those cards. When we see cards like Treachery and Great Whale coming around again, well, those haven't been on the list in a very long time. They kind of pop on and off every like 8, 9 months, usually when enough copies just make the list, but these are higher than normal sales across the board. Even cards, let's see what we got here. Hold on. Wheel of Fortune, 38. We also have Savannah, 42. Plateau, 40. Mox Diamond, 40. Soldevi Excavations, 43. Those cards would always be on the list normally. That's a lot of sales. But the numbers from other cards on the list, like Sands of Time, are way higher. When players get the opportunity to build, create, and edit a deck idea they already like, with new cards, they're going to add a new twist on what they want to do. They don't want to miss out on the opportunity to play it right away. They're willing to buy the card right away because it's still really cheap. Sands of Time for $5 is nothing. It's still nothing. And there's lots of copies out there. The idea that that sales list is going to continue in that way is not realistic. Not that many people are trying to build that deck, which is why that reserve list card isn't going to hold. It's going to go down. There's not enough pressure to keep that price up. So if you're a player who wants to buy the card for $2, just wait 6 months. Unfulfilled Desires, it probably won't go back down to the $5 level. The sales are really high. It'll probably trend down to $10. And the next time this happens a year or two from now, it'll probably stay at $15. It'll have a slight incremental increase in the pressure over time. And that time is not now. There's lots of time to get that card in 6 months. Just wait for it. But yes, it is very cool. It is very cool to see these sales on the market jump the way they did. It's like the fish are hopping right into your boat. You're like, look at all this crazy stuff going on right now. It is epic to be able to record these sales and share that information with you. Even if it's not permanent, even if it's just 1 week, these numbers are awesome. And I can't wait to see what you guys drop in the comments section. Is this going to be a permanent thing, a part-time thing? Is this what we're going to see in the next couple of weeks? More of these sales popping off? Are we going to see more pressure on the reserve list for power cards? It's a lot of questions people are asking, and I still say, no, you're not. I still don't think so myself, but you know what? I've been proven wrong lots of times, and this may be one of them. So next week, we'll find out how the sales are doing, but this week was awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Thanks for stopping by the channel, and I will see you guys tomorrow with another video, and of course, the installment of the top 10 will be here next week. We have the live stream tonight, 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. I hope you guys can make it for the Patreon giveaway, and we'll see you guys today, okay? See you today, tomorrow, tonight, some point. Yeah, I'm looking all over the place. I'm in a different recording space today. See you soon. And of course, a big shout out and thank you to all my fantastic patrons. Because those patrons, daily uploaded content is made possible every single day on YouTube. Without that continued support, we would not be able to do what we do here on the channel. So thanks again to everyone out there for supporting, and I look forward to seeing you guys each and every day with new content, new creative ideas, and of course, Magic the Gathering conversations. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble. Ramble in the Jamble. I'm not sure what I thought was going to happen, but when you see a card selling 520 copies, Sands of Time, 1,000 plus copies, Unfulfilled Desire, I don't care if the price trends down. People talked about it. People focused on it, even for a moment, and they realized there are cards in the reserve list that they've ignored that they shouldn't have. And hopefully some new players, and I do mean new players who've never even looked at reserve list cards, maybe take a glance and say, hey, there's some really great cards back here. There's some stuff we never use or utilize or think about, and maybe they take an interest. That is my hope. That is my dream. That a few players take notice, get some cheap cards, and save some money in the long run. Because if this stream we have right now becomes a river, becomes a lake, and moves into the ocean of the reserve list again, and we see a massive sales slide of everything just across the board selling, it could be a frenzy, and the prices could go insane. So for all you people out there who took their time, been buying cards continually, steadily, and on budget, without hurting friends or family, and you got all the cards you wanted, you get to sit back now. Cross your arms and say, you told you so. Told you so. And you don't have to worry if the prices go up or down because you already own the cards you wanted. Awesome. Guys, have a great day. Ramble in the Jamble.